So, of course, let us not forget the background, whatever we are doing, okay, about spirit, in light of Isaiah chapter 2, okay, and which clearly spells out that nations will not make war against one another anymore, starting from verse 4, that God will judge between them, okay, and that they shall beat their spears and their swords into plowshares, okay, which of course I made example with the plowshare project, and also I believe it also came to pass in Sputnik, after the Second World War, and of course in the moon landing, okay, whether by their own desire or not, they fulfilled that prophecy. Okay, so this is the background we are talking about the space race. The space race from after the Second World War has always been in this direction. Okay, and of course the plowshare project was a more deliberate act, okay, of trying to solve the military industrial complex by doing something instead to turn weapons of war into weapons of productivity or prosperity, okay, of sustaining civilization. So this is just what the background we're building here, okay. Anything beyond that will also contribute to the devastation that may come at the end during this period, which Christians call the end times. So let's bear that in mind. With this, we can now understand what I'm talking about here. I want to talk about Starship as it is right now, okay. Starship is developing slowly, and there was a successful test the other day of the version 3 of the Starship, bigger, more capable of carrying more payload, and of course adding to its reusability, as it were, the efficiency on the general note. So it was a successful test, and what we see now is that, of course, you can shoot a rocket out of the atmosphere. You can make it orbital, which it is close to being orbital, but the important thing is, can you land it on the moon? Can you land it on Mars? And I believe that this is one of the questions that is disturbing a lot of people. More so, can it become so efficient that it will be able to carry enough payload long distance? And so these are the problems of Starship. Of course, there is no immediate solution to the fuel efficiency, as it were, because nuclear energy is yet to be developed to that level. And of course, SpaceX would be able to think on how to conserve the fuel they have using the methane oxygen combination, and be able to do Mars transfer maneuvers, so that they can conserve this energy till they get to Mars. And they will have to work out the solution on, if they are landing on Mars, what if they run out of fuel? They have to think of all those things. And of course, they are talking about making fuel on Mars, and of course that means they will have to take a lot of payload down there, put it on the surface of Mars, and begin to make that before they can take anybody or human being to the surface of that planet, or the moon, as it were. So these are little things that are still perturbing the project and are delaying it, because there's a lot of work still to be done, very little funding, and of course even the know-how, I believe, is still in development. But one thing I want to look at, especially today, is my own concept of what I think that Starship is missing. Like I said, I'm not an expert or an engineer, so I cannot say I have it all. But in my own view, of course, I have been complaining about this for long, about the center of gravity when you look at the design of spaceship, of Starship as it were. And from basic physics, you would know that anything with a very high center of gravity tends to be unstable. And we saw intuitive machines experiment with that. We saw how they lost 2 spacecrafts because of that very principle. Okay, right here on the moon, very close by. We're not talking Mars yet. Very small spacecrafts. They tipped over. Okay, so I think that was intuitive machines. Yes. So another. I think another was it Japan or so also tried, and a similar problem was found. Okay, so these are the issues, and I believe that I've always thought that Starship should have a horizontal landing a design rather than a vertical landing design. Okay. And when you look at the diagram, you will see what I have instructed. I have first instructed Grok to bring out a horizontal design with landing legs, and Grok did its best. But the problem with Grok is that Grok is very disobedient, and it behaves a little like Elon, kind of drags its feet. When you give it commands it doesn't want to do. And so I took it over to Gemini. Okay. And Gemini was able to obey my instructions and put grasshopper legs right there in front. And you can see very clearly that a design like this is possible. Okay, so that Starship can land on Mars and take off from and not have any problems. Taking off. It's going to take off in an inclined position, and it will be able to get off Mars as long as there's enough fuel in the tanks. Okay, so this is just I think the better design. And of course, when I was thinking about it, I thought, wow, so the Starhopper, we have Starhopper again. Starhopper, if you remember, was the first process of the design of Starship, and so we have the real Starhopper, a horizontal landing design. Okay, so this is what I believe that may shorten the process in the design of Starship. I may not know everything, of course. I'm still waiting to see what they have in mind, since they've insisted on the vertical design, the landing design. But I believe this horizontal landing or inclined landing is far better, and may kind of shorten the time that is needed to learn from experience, fail and learn from experience. I think from get-go, if they just put their minds on a horizontal landing design, it might work better. Okay, so this is just the concept that I think that should be employed here. And I don't know, let's wait and see what it will be. I'm excited to see how they will end up concluding with the whole design process, because it's very long, it's very tedious. The thing with engineering is that you make a lot of mistakes, you have to redesign, you have to think through everything, you have to know the math. As a technician, I know how tedious it is to design and redesign, and it is believed that engineers should have it better, but sometimes it doesn't come that way. Okay, so but with a good engineering team, I believe that they should try and put there, maybe reduce some of the weight. I think that's the problem they're having now. They don't know where to reduce weight. They've been reducing from the weight because it needs to take off from Earth's surface. It needs to be a bit lighter. Of course, looking at the fuel mass ratio. Okay, so it needs to be a little lighter. So adding the landing legs make it heavier and more difficult to design. Okay, so I mean that is the problem they are having, but of course it's still an engineering problem, and there is no, they can reduce the size still. Instead of version 3, go back to the previous size, and then add landing legs that are retractable and are long enough to be able to make the machine inclined in an inclined position to take off from the moon surface or from the Mars surface. And I believe that is it. I'm David Nkichinke for you today in such